Brian with Brian's Custom Detailing actually called me and asked me what I thought about him becoming an Opti-Coat installer. He goes, would that be stepping on your toes? I go, no, because it's brand awareness. Said,
Right.
And you have a shop and I'm mobile. And the people, and I said, and you know how people are in North Dallas and Southwest Fort Worth and whatever. They don't want to drive to the other part of town, which is why he's in Grand Prairie, which is in the middle of the Metroplex too. But they don't want to drive to the part of town. They'd rather have you do it.
Right.
So to me, being mobile is a competitive advantage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Opti-Coat Podcast, where we share stories from detailing professionals and highlight cutting-edge products, techniques, and tools that'll help your detailing to accelerate into the future. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, please follow, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, I think one of my no rinse videos, but it's been there like 15 plus years, has about 50,000 views. So that was kind of surprising to see that.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it gets shared. And I share it because I see so much misinformation about how to use rinseless washes. Now, I don't know about the other ones, but no rinse, unless the car is caked in mud, you don't really have to spray it off first.
Right.
What about salt?
Because they write out these
about salt.
Well, we don't have salt here. We get sand, and I have had no issues with washing it off with no rinse.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They just make it so complicated. It's like I'm amazed that people try it when they see how these people have this big elaborate pre-soak and 4 buckets with towels in them and stuff like that. It's like you're making it way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. This
if my dad at 86 can wash cars with no rinse, anyone can.
Foam rinse foam method. These guys with like the foam rinse foam method, they put the foam on, they rinse it off, they foam it again, then they soap wash it. And you've already spent in that amount of time. I probably could have washed almost half of the vehicle with no rinse.
Yeah, it usually takes me 20 minutes or so for like a sedan.
Mm-hmm.
So wheels and wheel wells. That's my question: is tires and wheel wells. What's your go-to process?
What I use with that depends on the condition. If they're in pretty good shape, then all I have to use is no rinse, and then I got a pesticide sprayer that I rinse them out with. It's a DeWalt. It actually's got some power. Or I use the Optimum tire and wheel cleaner, which also works well on the wheel wells.
Okay,
it takes the new ones.
That's what I use too. This is a weed sprayer from rural. I can't say the word rural. That's a tough one. But like I'm sure the IK. I have an IK foamer, but the IK sprayers, I've used them. They are better, but for $90 compared to $200, it gets the job done.
Right.
I think the DeWalt cost me about $40. Oh, it's actually got some power.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I do the Optibond, the tire gel on the wheel wells and the tires, that knocks stuff off so quick. I mean, I don't have to reapply like on my personal vehicles, like maybe once a month. So I'll just even rinse them off and just do a no rinse and then just rinse those areas off without agitating, and that usually gets the job done for me.
Yeah, mine don't normally get bad. It's customers' vehicles, and sometimes you run into wheel wells, especially the fabric ones now that haven't been cleaned ever.
Yeah,
just like when you open up the glass hatch on a GM SUV, and you're the only one that's ever opened it.
Yeah,
I just
What's this mystery
designers, button? I don't get it. Like, they have no clue that this has to be cleaned. I mean, the front end of that GMC behind you, that grill and all the nooks and crannies that get filled up with bugs in the front. It's crazy.
How are you? I would say my least favorite part of detailing is door jams. It's just not fun, and if I'm too aggressive, it gets everywhere. When it comes to the rubber seals and all that kind of stuff, what's your go-to? Do you use tar? Do you use Power Clean?
Yeah, what I usually use on the door jams is Power Clean, and I'll spray, I'll let it dwell, and then I come back with the pesticide sprayer and rinse it, and then I'll wash the vehicle, and then all I have to do is wipe down the jams as I finish, and then they come real clean. Same thing with the gas cap area, hatch areas. It just depends, like the problem with the hatch in the back is as you go through air, it forms a vacuum and it pulls all that dirt, onto the back of it. So it's always like the worst part.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I can't remember. I think it's a 2016 Honda Odyssey model. And if it's been down a country road, I'm sitting there with the pressure washer. I could spend 10 minutes. I'm just going underneath that cowl on the back, right above the window. And I'm just like, just spraying, and I'll stop. And then here comes a stream of sand, and spraying. And, some of these designs are just horrendous.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is in the Dallas area, I don't have to worry about that too much and don't have to worry about salt on the roads. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier. I understand people up north have a little bit more to deal with. So that may alter the way you have to do everything. Here it's more, we just get rain and the pollen was horrible this year. So, and that always causes a slowdown in business too. Because right when it's at its peak, people are like, well, what's the point? Because as soon as it's outside, it's going to be green again. So I slow down a little bit there, and it's because of that.
Scott, how long have you been with Opti-Coat?
Around 2000. Well, I started getting their products through Anthony Orozco in 2004.
Okay.
I met him on Autopia. Autopia was the big forum at the time.
Yeah.
And he was sending me the products and said, hey, you got to try this stuff. It's great. And basically at the time there was a conventional wash, there was Optimum Polish and Compound, there's clay, there was Protectant Plus, and the car wax, Optimum car wax.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Yeah,
but everything worked great, and I like being able to go and polish or compound a car without a bunch of dust.
Right.
So 2005, Dr. G and Anthony were going to go to Arlington, where I live, to the GM plant. They're going to do a demonstration of his polishes. Of course, he's bringing Anthony along with him because David is a chemist. He's not a detailer. Right. So Anthony said, you have to meet Dave. He's a great guy. You have to meet him. So we met up. It was later after they had done their thing, and we met up in Irving at an El Chico because he wanted Mexican food, and I'm like, oh, Chico, let's not go to a chain, And at the time, I don't know if you guys know Anthony, but what he looked like is Howard Stern. Okay. And people were doing what they're doing is double takes because he had really long hair at the time. Yeah. And so when we finished up eating, he had asked me about a product I'd been using, because he goes, can you really wash a car with a gallon of water? And I said, yeah. He goes, what's the product? And I said, it's called it's Protect All Quick and Easy Wash. And I found that 1993. It was in the new product section of Popular Hot Rodding. And I was just starting my detailing business, and as a single parent, had custody of my kids. It was I didn't have a whole lot of money. I was trying to get I was trying to make the transition from the restaurant business into something else, into anything else, literally. And the washing the cars, either I had to, if it was on like someone's at office, I had to take their car to a car wash, like a spray wash, and then bring it back and do everything else, or I'd have to use their hose because I couldn't afford a truck and a pressure washer. So I thought, hey, this product sounds interesting, and it actually worked. So I gave Dr. G some samples so he could look at it, and he calls me up a couple weeks later and says, this chemistry is really old. He goes, they came up with this back in the 80s and haven't changed a thing. He goes, I've made a version that I think is going to work better. And he asked me, he goes, when the car's really dirty, do you have to change out the water? I said, yeah, about halfway through, I have to change it out. And he goes, are there any other issues with it? I said, well, sometimes I get streaking on the glass. And he goes, well, that's because they're using a surfactant. And once it loads up, it doesn't work well anymore.
Yeah, right.
So he sent me a couple samples of no rinse that smelled like clay.
Okay.
I guess he said it's a polymer that's soy based. Now I don't know if that's true of the newest version, but that's what he said then.
Yeah, it's still
And
soy.
I used it the first time, and I was ready to give up a product that I've been using for about 12 years.
Oh wow!
Wow.
I mean, it was that much of an improvement. And I also noticed when I'd wash the cars like my own that I was getting a Rain-X effect on all the glass without having to put on Rain-X.
Right.
So that was a nice thing too. And I wasn't having issues with streaking on glass.
Right.
And this was still when everyone was using cotton towels, like microfiber was in its infancy and thin and all that. So
and one cut.
Yeah. And then he made the I mentioned a scent, and he goes, well, you have to understand that it alters it chemically. But he came up with one, and it was like pine sol for the first scent. And so I'm washing the car, and it works great, but it's like I'm mopping the floor at a hospital. So I bet it was probably
flashbacks to the restaurant business.
Yeah, so it's probably a couple years after that he came up with the scent that it has now, which is really nice. It's reminds me of the suckers you get at the doctor's office. If you were good after you got your shot.
Mulberry, I think it is.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
So
you're not sick of it yet?
You what?
All these years and you're still not sick of the same scent? It's really nice. No. I like it.
It was interesting because Dr. G wanted to call it greenwash. And I'm like, but
blue. That makes sense.
But he goes, well, it's a green product. And I go, I know, but you're not telling the customer what it is. No one's going to know what it is. I said, it's a rinseless wash.
Right.
And that's when he came up with with ONR, well, Optimum No Rinse wash. The internet turned it into ONR.
Right.
Because like when you were on Autopia, everyone had abbreviations.
Yeah.
But it's interesting on Autopia, like just talking about rinseless washes, and people thought I was insane.
Right.
Until they started
still
trying.
Think that. People still say that. I think Optimum calls it, at least they did a few years ago, they typically refer to it as no rinse. I mean, I know it as ONR.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's how you got you started basically testing ONR for Dr. G, right?
Yeah, because I was the only one he knew that had any experience.
Okay, wow.
I mean, he didn't. When I started talking about the quick and easy wash on Autopia, and there was one guy messaged me.
Yeah.
He said, he goes, yeah, I use it too. I just don't want to say anything because they think we're crazy.
Oh yeah. This is what bugs me sometimes about the detailing community. I've got Yeti buckets. I love these things. They're ridiculously expensive. They're green, like my logo and glasses, whatever. And I put a picture of them on this Facebook detailing group that I was on. Like, oh, hey guys, those are cool buckets. And I have bucket dollies, and like not one positive, literally 80 plus. Oh, your floor is ugly because it looks brown. Your buckets, man, that's quite a flex, buddy. Like literally nothing but negative comments.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks later, some girl, I don't know, I think she saw my post. She posts something to do with Yeti buckets. And man, 120 positive comments. I don't know. I'm not saying that, I don't know. I don't know why I got all negative. Anyway, my point is, unless it's a fad swallowed by the mainstream, like if you
mean like graphene?
I understand. Yeah, exactly. If you, oh man, you don't like graphene, or oh, you got stupid yet, what I mean? Like it's I jumped both feet first out of that stupid group. I couldn't offer anything valuable, and I certainly was not getting anything valuable, which is what I look to do in a group. But so I understand what you mean. I can imagine apprehension. Hey guys, I use Rinseless. Because I'll say the same thing. I'll put these new tactics like, well, that's stupid. You can't do that.
Well, what's funny on Autopia is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with David Fermani.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was one that was most critical of no rinse, and quick and easy wash. He was like, "Oh, you just can't."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, after Opti-Coat came out, I think it was called OptiGuard then, and he did a long-term test, and all of a sudden he's a believer, big time.
Yeah. He's an Opti installer.
Yeah. And he used to be like a Zano guy. So
right. There's a vein of, I mean, we're men, so egos and pride, but there, especially in detailing, it seems to be amplified because you might have welders that maybe have ego, but they don't all come together and put their worst foot forward. Detailers seem to all come together and see who has the biggest ego, and let's make fun of that guy because he's using a rinseless or that's why I try not to follow YouTube and listen to what everybody's saying. I mean, I've even had some back and forth with Don jokingly, like, "Oh, you use this? Why do you like steamers?" I don't like to use steamers. I think they're big, bulky. I can't see. They slow me down, and they're not worth the extra 10 times longer it takes. And Don's like, "Oh, steamers are great." Yes, Don's like, steamers are great, and that's fine. Somebody wants to use, I don't care. Somebody wants to post their steamer about how amazing it is. I might say something, I might not. I'm not going to be negative about it because everybody is comfortable with whatever it is that they're used to, and you'll figure it out. Don will eventually come to my side and figure out that steamers are. It's like driving a bus around instead of a sports car.
I think a lot of it has to do with products too. That people are loyal to a brand.
And
or
a face.
They want to be
or a face of a brand.
What I'm using is the best. They want to be convinced. And I found for interiors, what works is water and woolite at 20-1.
And what's this for?
It for interiors. It's what you take is 1 part woolite and 20 parts of water. And you can clean the vinyl, leather, carpets, bats.
Okay.
And it leaves a nice fresh scent. And
do you spray it on and like you would
rub as needed, and then wipe up, and then wet back. And even if you go to, I think it's Ottawa Leather who does most of the OEM leather. They just say to use a mild soap and water.
Right.
But I got that idea from the leather care tag in a Cadillac. It was a 93 and it was still there. And I saw that. I go, hey, I had to try that because that's a lot cheaper than buying. At the time, I was using a lot of stuff that you'd buy at Pet Boys because I was new to the business, and this was 1993, 92 when I was first doing it like part time. Yeah, and there wasn't much in the way of the internet. So I just was reading books and things like that. I'd go and buy a book on detailing.
Right.
Yeah. It's just kind of one of now that with the internet, it makes it so much easier.
Right.
Easier and harder, with how many opinions. Yeah. I think that one thing that's exciting is because I found myself in different bandwagons, not wanting to make a jump to DA, shampoo or steamer, pad washer, rinseless washing. And I think that keeping an open mind is sometimes really hard, especially when our business is built around an ego of saying, I have the best techniques. This is why you should come to me and stuff. And I think that I think what's great about being surrounded by the group of Opti-Coat installers, I think Tug, before you jumped on, I was just mentioning how open-handed people are with their years of information of this is what I found, this is what's worked for me, and it's in a practical sense too. This is what I've done to get to where I am, to have my business be supported. And I was thinking about that with you, Scott, with testing these products. You're not if you could share a little bit about your history of testing products with Optimum, and also you're not in a sterilized environment. You're taking this stuff on the road, and with in real life you're testing a lot of this stuff as a detailer would be using it. wouldn't you say?
Yeah. When I get something, sometimes I'll get two or three versions, and Dr. G doesn't tell me anything. He just tells me what it's for, because he doesn't want to influence my conclusions, I think. So, and sometimes you naturally would assume, well, sample A, because it's sample A, is probably going to be the best, but that's not always the case. And so I'll test stuff like side by side. For a while, he was looking at a ceramic version of the car wax, of the car wax, Optimum car wax, and ceramic version of Opti-Seal, and something else, and they all worked well. I guess in the end, he decided that the ceramic benefit in Optimum car wax wouldn't be worth the additional cost, and I think that's what ended up turning into the ultra ceramic sealant, which is a fantastic product, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't used that.
The gloss and the slickness is crazy. It's water based, and he said it's more likely to build on itself than than Hyperseal, just because it's water based.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So and so that's what I use on. I have some customers who have me out like all the time. I have one who has me detail his vehicles every 6 to 8 weeks. He told me when I started doing his cars, he was a clean freak. He's a doctor, treats infectious diseases, so I understand that. And it doesn't make sense to hit it with Hyperseal every time if I'm going to be out there in 6 to 8 weeks. So I just use the ultra ceramic sealant, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I need to try.
Now I'm going to go out on Sunday, because it'll actually be dry here, and do what I'm going to do is ultra sign on his G-Wagon.
Very cool.
Yeah, he was looking for something. He goes, "Well, I don't want you to go crazy with it the way you did with the Ferrari." He has it's like Roma, not aroma, and he just he doesn't care as much, but he still wanted some extra gloss and shine without me having to go and do a full correction on it. So since it's got some filling ability, I can polish it once. And then, because it's got a whole lot of the ultra ceramic sealant on it, I'm gonna need to go and polish it first. But I think one of the things that'll be great for is cars with with full PPF, because you can give them something that'll last a while and slick it up a whole lot more. I mean, it's I actually did a Porsche a Taycan. And the PPF he had was like the high gloss. Yeah, the difference was immediate. So he was really impressed, and because I'd coated a car for him, I was a Tesla in 2018, and even when he sold it, it was performing just like if I just applied it. So he had it on it. He sold it in 2024, so it had been on there, for 6 years.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm all about efficiency, and I think and I was talking to somebody the other day that owns a business, and like it's just me at my shop, and it's because I'd like to become more efficient, right? So, but if I hire somebody, then I'm not the one doing the work. Not that I could afford them anyway. But then, how am I going to practice efficiency in the same way? But anyway, for me, I think Opti-Coat and the products. I would never say something like, "Oh, you got to use this product. It's going to transform your business," because it's more of a mindset prior to any kind of products. But Scott, do you find Opti-Coat and the products, whether it be in the beginning or even now, I mean, how much more efficient are you now than maybe you were at the beginning?
Well, I think a lot of it is technique, but I think, with using like no rinse to wash the car, I mean, that cuts an incredible amount of time off. Yeah. And then I'm getting to what I need to be doing, the paint correction or the coating or whatever, instead of washing and washing and washing and washing for a couple hours. And just some of the things like what I've started doing with interiors, to dress the vinyl and leather is I take a half gallon of water, put a half ounce of no rinse in there, and about 3 to 4 ounces of a Protectant Plus. And I put a towel
You're
in
putting
there.
that in the bucket? Okay.
And then I'm
Because
putting
I'm spraying it on the towel before I apply, but you're putting it straight in the bucket.
Yeah. So, and it leaves it like light, like it looks new after it's done. So you just take your towel, wring it out, and wipe down the dash and anything that's vinyl and leather after you've cleaned it. And if it's not that dirty, or like on a new car, where you really don't need to do much, that as a wipe down works great.
Yeah.
And I found that like on floor mats that aren't bad, that vacuuming and then taking like a damp towel, a no rinse towel, it cleans them up great.
Yeah. This reminds me, and I don't necessarily have a question for this, but it just reminded, because I saw something on Facebook. Someone reposted somebody's post, and the detailer is near me, and his post caption was, "I was on a podcast recently talking about my strive for like perfection." Right? He said, so he's mobile detailing. He does it part-time. His post said, "I go to work 8 hours," and he had like a little video showing him looking at a Bronco in the dark with just a single light, like walking around it. And I'm not sure why. But he was saying, "I go to work 8 hours, then I go to my detailing job for 6 hours. And then when the customer gets their car with a smile on their face, it's all worth it." That's a 14-hour day. And he even had his prices. Oh, no. I clicked his link because like, oh, he's near me. I've never heard of this guy. So I clicked it. His prices were very easily found, and they were dirt cheap. I mean, $120 for an interior. It was 110 or something, or 100 for an exterior, and then 220 for both. And I think 220 to do an entire car of 6 hours of what he called perfection to make smile on somebody's face. I think to myself, that's a great like ego thing. Like, man, I spend 6 hours, and that's a ridiculously long time anyway on a detail. 6 hours, even if it is a Bronco. But I think to myself, you're bringing smiles to, and I don't mean to be mean to this guy, but you're bringing smiles to this customer's face. But your family isn't going to know you. You're working 14 hours a day. I understand having to work extra. You know, you're in the business. Sometimes I stay longer. Sometimes I come in on a Saturday. I try to make up for it if I can at all help it, taking a day off like I did the other day. But I think it's great to say I strive for perfection and I spend all this amount of time and I chase after every single mark and little thing here, which is fine. You go after detail. But it sounds like, it sounds like you, even though you've been detailing a long time, it sounds like you're not stuck in that rut of, I need to spend 3 hours on this interior, even though it could have only taken an hour and a half and I would have produced it. So that's what bugs me about anti-efficiency. It's like anti-detailing is being so much focused on perfection that I spend 3 times the amount and I can never charge that person for it. But then you go out of business and nobody knows how amazing you are because you can't make any money.
Yeah, that reminds me when I was on Autopia. When I first got on Autopia, this was like 2001, and it seemed to be between Klaus and Zano. You know, they'd all retired to the smoking lounge with their jackets and their cigars and talk about the virtues of both. And one guy made a post about being 12 hours into his first detail with Zano, and he was only half done, and he was bragging. And he wasn't doing any polishing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like,
ridiculous.
What?
Right. What are you doing?
I mean, it just...
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing this as a business, you need to be efficient. You need to find ways to do things faster. And I found for me, you know, like with interiors, I do everything in each section. Vacuuming, detailing, everything.
Yeah,
and so I only go around the car once. Same thing with no rinse. You start in a certain spot, go around the car once. And it just saves a lot of time, you know, like with the interiors, you're not moving the seat back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And you have a BMW with a battery that's marginal, and it's not going to start after you're done.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I actually had a customer had that happen. He had BMWs, and like I detailed 3 in a row, and they were all like 5 or 6 years old with the original battery, and then we'd have to jump them. So he solved it because now what he's got is Teslas.
Yeah.
So you can just plug them in. And let me show you something real quick that works well for interiors.
This guy's efficiency king.
Okay. A lot of my customers are in parking garages. And I have to work in garages, and this light is pretty beastly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it upside down.
Wow.
But,
oh man.
1,000 lumen, and then 500.
Yeah.
And trust me, you do an interior without a lot of ambient lighting.
Yep.
And it's you're gonna miss a lot.
Oh yeah.
Like I got a customer.
Is that the one on the website?
Do what?
Is that the one on the website?
No, I didn't know there was one on the website. I got this on Amazon for like $25 for 2.
Okay, there's a set of lights on. I don't know if we have a headset.
Are they like wearable?
It's Scan Grip. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not much for
wearable. This is why I like it, because it's on my head.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up my beautiful locks. I used to have like a light stand, and then I would kind of point it around and move it. I actually made my own interior light. It is a little bulky, but I just never got into head. They have that like dent in my forehead.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean,
I don't know. I'd sweat.
I'm married. I don't have to impress anybody. It just and plus, like if I walk, at night, it's good. But I found because it's on my head, I can see, and especially when I'm in a parking garage and the lighting already is limited. And I have one because real picky about anything in between the console on his Range Rover, and it's like this way I don't miss like anything.
Yeah,
and it's crazy because I can turn it off. So
and tools and efficiency, have you found just over the years with the time that you've spent helping test things with Optimum and Opti-Coat, some fads have definitely come and gone. This new wave of products that are coming out in the Opti-Coat, like the maintenance line. So there's so many amazing products, and every single product that I have seen or used from the line is like, every time I use it, I'm like, oh my gosh, so much better, like so much more efficient, or I feel safer using it. What have you seen over the years with Opti-Coat releasing products? Has it come across to the community as, hey, we just want to improve, we just want to do the best we can? It doesn't really seem like, especially with it being such a no rinse focus, you kind of making yourself a little bit of a pariah to some of the groups that don't like change and don't like doing something for the sake of like efficiency or whatever. How have you seen Opti-Coat kind of move through the industry over the years with releasing new products? Because it to me has never really seemed like fad based, or like, oh well, so and so such and such company has this kind of product, we need to have something else. What's kind of the behind the scenes on that, do you think?
Well, I don't know. It seems like Dr. G comes up with stuff before anyone else does. Now I remember with the Opti Seal, and apparently not Zano, it's Duragloss, was working on Clear Seal. And because they heard that Dave was working on it, they tried to develop theirs, and they put it on the market before it was ready. And I mean, the difference between the two was incredible. I mean, you could do them side by side, and it wasn't even close. I mean, the other stuff you put on, and you couldn't tell. And so when Duragloss was going to come out with the rinseless wash, this was like probably 2010. The first post on Autopia was, I wonder what Sal is going to call it, because by then it wasn't any secret that Sal he was just buying a bunch of repackaged Duragloss stuff. So that was just kind of interesting how that worked out. But things like with the coating, I mean, I had test versions of OptiGuard, which is what became Opti-Coat in 2006.
Wow.
And I didn't know I needed to prep the paint. I put it right over the top of wax,
Oh, yeah.
and it still lasted probably about 9 months on unprepped paint. And I got videos on YouTube where I'm take it to like a self-serve car wash just to show how well it beads, and the water's just flying off the car. And so, you know, I think that really opened up the doors as far as coatings. You know, I've been using Opti-Coat since 2009. And I got customers now who are referring their friends to me and raving about how good it is. So that's what I think creates a lot of the buzz, is that the customers see the result, and then they want to, oh yeah, so I have the guy whose G class I'm doing, or G wagon I'm doing on Saturday or Sunday. He's a friend of a customer whose cars I started doing in 2010. And I coated cars for him, but it just seems like when I'd say more than half of the people who contact me about a coating, it's because of referral from a customer who already has it. And I think that's more what drives it, is that when people use stuff and find out it works, start talking about it, I think that's what helps. You know, there's, you know, like people talk about the graphene stuff, and I point out that, you know, this is on Reddit. Reddit has massive, you know, detailing forums with like with 700,000 plus members. And I said, well, here's something to consider with graphene. The major coating companies that offer warranted coatings don't have a graphene. There's a reason for it. And it's not because their chemists don't know what they're doing. So, you know, it's the same as, you know, as Teflon in waxes. And even DuPont would say it has to be applied at like 700 degrees for it to go in center, or whatever it is, whatever the chemical term is. You know, just like with no rinse is a Zwitter ionic effect. Like I told Dave, I said, I had never taken chemistry. Talk to me like I'm a dumb person about this. He goes, encapsulation was fine. I understand that.
I think that just means not negative or positive, but I don't know what that means either.
I've also noticed, and I had customers also comment with the Opti-Coat, is it doesn't attract as much dust. So, and they'll tell me the best thing about it is how easy it is to wash, and how like the dirt it falls off it. Which is,
I've seen
it's very interesting.
A lot of people talk about like the pH balance, and they really like, they dive deep into oh well, you're going to want to use this kind of cleaner because of, you know, it's going to break down this kind of, you know, stain because it's got this pH, or oh, you're in a car wash, well, you're going to want to have something more acidic because it's going to fling the dirt off. But so many, correct me if I'm wrong, so many of the chemicals from Opti-Coat are pH neutral, and they're creating incredible results where it seems like in some spheres you have to be so scientifically aware. And I've noticed with a lot of the Opti-Coat products, that the products are really set up really well. Like they've been really dummy proofed. Use this product in this application. And it actually tends to like reach a wider range of applications, as opposed to like, well, I have, you know, my pH, you know, set to this for this product for this application, and then you gotta, you know, have 20 different products going on. What have you found to be the case with am I right with most of the products being at least close to pH neutral?
Yeah, like with a power clean. I mean, depending on the dilution, what you could do is clean engines and driveways, you know, to the leather in a Rolls Royce. I mean, and without damaging anything. You know, whenever I have one of those, oh my God, interiors, it's power clean time. And that's what my son, who used to help me, would say. He goes, oh, we're breaking out a power clean for this one. You know? And it's kind of funny how my kids, you know, my older son's better about his cars. My younger son's not, because he has kids, but how they still, what they still do is remember a lot of this stuff because they used to help me. You know, and also my wife used to help me, and she would do the interiors. And this was during all the COVID stuff, you know, when she left one job, then it was hard to get them. So she goes, well, I'll just help you.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was just interesting how people can pick it up fast and use the products. You know, you don't the good thing with that the learning curve is very small. It's, you know, with the no rinse, once you're shown, you should be able to handle it. And that's why I go back to customers' houses and they've got a gallon or a quart, you know, of no rinse, and they're using it. You know, some of them get the you know, the detailer, the quick detailer, and some will have Protectant Plus and Ferrex, you know, for their wheels. So
I think it's important to get, and I'm going to start to push for this stuff more. Whenever I do a coating, I have the person come back in 30 days. I'll walk them through how to do a rinseless wash. I spray it down with ONR, the blue, and then we wash it with yellow and dry it off. And they look at me like that can't be it. I mean, you can make it more complicated. You can do it again. But anyway, I think getting yellow ONR in people's hands especially for coatings, is important, because I can't really offer hand washes. I mean, I do for some, but I can't load up my schedule with that. So you're going to have to be independent here. You spend all this money. We've really made it easy to wash your car. So here's some mango juice, you know, go wash your car, because it's super, super easy.
Yeah, because I'm in the same boat with the washes. I'm in a metro area that's 70 miles east to west and 45 or 50 like north to south. I mean, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is massive.
It's huge. Yeah, I've been to that airport.
And I actually, well, the good thing is the airport I'm about 15 minutes away from. So, because I'm actually in the middle of the Metroplex. So that helps me. But so, yeah, I teach people how to use the no rinse when, you know, because when they get, a follow-up wash. I found the take rate on the follow-up wash is lower than I expected. It's a free wash.
Right.
Probably about 30%. And I actually have a customer down in Waco, which is 100 miles south, and he's got a car collection. And he knows I can't come down and wash the car, so he actually has me train people to wash his cars, because he couldn't find anyone down there that could do it right. So, you know, one guy was, I don't know what he was doing, but, you know, he was leaving streaks and everything. And I showed him the no rinse. He goes, "Oh, this is so much easier." So, and because I was going down and I was having to correct everything again, you know, before you started having me train people. So, you know, once someone's trained with no rinse and understands, they should be able to keep their car, you know, as close to swirl free as possible. You know, I've actually had customers, when I go to do the courtesy wash, they've got the buckets out, the products and everything, because they want to dive in and do it too. So they
That's
understand.
awesome.
You know, and my dad being 86, he actually did his RV. He spent 3 days doing it, but he washed it with no rinse and when he applied his Opti-Seal.
86.
Wow.
Oh 86. My goodness. That's
crazy. Have you done? What's your experience with planes?
I've never done a plane.
Planes?
I haven't done a plane, but I've done a forklift.
Okay.
And I've done a lawnmower that was a vintage one.
Oh, cool.
And I've done like some RVs and boats. You know, boats. You know, I'm not too close to any of the big lakes. I know there was one guy that I knew. It was through Autopia, and he's in this area, but he was up in Louisville where there's lakes and docks and all that. So he was doing a lot of that. I'm like, you can have the boats. I mean, I'll do it. I'm fine doing a boat, but it's just like there's every seat has a compartment underneath. That's got not my favorite. Beer caps, you know, that have rusted, and what they leave is rust rings, and all the seats have sunblock in them. So, and when I tell people how much, it's like, oh, I think I'll do it myself. It's like, it's hard work. And then after that, then they call me and go, yeah, I think I'll have you do it. It was too much work. So the same thing with, you know, just with 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 detailing itself. I mean, I remember when I was doing everything by hand, I didn't even use a DA till 2004, I think.
Wow.
Because I'd see people use a rotary and destroy the cars and leave rotary swirls. But by then, the paints were getting hard enough that you couldn't do it by hand, and doing it by hand was time consuming.
Oh yeah.
So I had a customer who who I knew from Autopia, had DA. He had a porter cable. I'm like, wow, this is much easier, and you can polish so much more evenly. Yep. And then they started with the large throw DAs, and that's a game changer. I mean, I think I've had to use my rotary once since then.
Yeah.
And I haven't found anything that I can't handle. And the new version of Hyper Compound's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was the one like weak point, with the older compounds. They didn't have enough cut, or what they had is too much cut.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he did, some kind of magic or whatever with Hyper Compound, but it's fantastic. The finish, even on softer paint, it finishes well.
Wow.
And that's a time saver to not have to bust out a rotary, because when you do a rotary, it's 3 steps. And you have to tape stuff off.
And wipe the polish off.
Throw DA, it's 2 steps.
Yeah. And you can polish right over the other polish.
Yeah. And also I found, well, now with the Hyper all-in-one, it seems kind of a moot point. But what I used to do for people who are selling their car and they're not wanting to spend as much, I would polish a section, then I'd spray the the car wax on it to remove it and seal it at the same time. Because people who are selling their car, they're not as in love with it as they used to be. So they just want it to look good, to shine, as much correction as one step will get them. And the car wax has a ton of slickness, but it seems to be very, very similar with the Hyper all-in-one. So I've done that a couple of times now, and it's impressive. I mean, I was shocked at the gloss and the shine.
Yeah.
What's your go-to one-step pad?
It's a new blue pad.
The dark blue
pad. Yeah.
Yep.
I found even on softer paint, it finishes well. Yeah, it's got a decent amount of cut.
Love that pad.
It works well. It holds up well too. I've noticed.
If you need to do a step on that, like say black paint, would you do dark blue and then go to black, or dark blue and go to light blue?
Normally I've lights that I check the paint with, and normally even on black, I can just do like the dark blue and hyper polish, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not really a big fan of super soft pads, because I think the product gets pushed into the pad and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, the abrasives in hyper polish are extremely fine.
Yeah.
So there's no reason, if you're using a soft pad, you're pushing it in, and then the polish itself, I don't think it's doing as much work. So the other thing I noticed with the large throw DAs is on the A pillars, especially on softer paint, I would get like some micro marring, a little bit of hazing there. And because it uses more of the pad, and it's not all concentrated, with an 8mm throw, it's all concentrates in one little spot. Now it's expanding that spot, and it doesn't go and load up the pad, and it does a better job. I mean, if you're not using a large throw DA, you're missing a lot.
What's the lowest millimeter you would go with a long throw?
Do what?
Let's say on a 6-inch DA, what's the smallest long throw number you would go with? 23 millimeters, or anything
I've
below that?
21.
Would you be like, not worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the DA 21. That's almost what I use. I've got also like the mini one, which is a 15. I guess it's the first gen one. I need to get what I need to get is the one that is rechargeable, because using a small DA with a cord on small sections is awkward. So I need to get that.
Cords are awkward.
But yeah, I think a 15 with a 3-inch pad, it works great. You really have to make sure the pads stay clean, or what you can get is pigtails. I mean, you better clean that pad after every single spot. If you pick anything up in it, now you got little squigglies in there.
Yep.
So every panel or every pass you're going to clean?
Yeah, each time I use it, the very before I use it again on whether I'm going over the panel again or not, then I take like a towel, a no rinse towel, no rinse dampened towel, and I spin it on top of that. Or I'll use like my pad washer. It just depends. The nice thing with the pad washer is it greatly extends the life of the pads. I mean, I don't know if you've used one, but I mean, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Of course,
I
carrying
need to get a new one.
that big jug in the, in my car.
Yeah. It's a little risky.
Do you still test?
It's empty, so.
Scott, do you still test Optimum stuff currently?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I tested the version 6 of No Rinse, the Hyper Foam.
Nice.
What he sent me? He sent me the ultra ceramic sealant, and I was trying to apply it the way I would with Opti-Seal and stuff. And I called him, it's kind of streaky. He goes, yeah, you have to spray it on.
Okay.
It would have been nice to know that in advance.
Oh, you were spraying it on the little applicator.
On the foam pad. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Hyper Seal should come with the foam pad. I know a lot of people like to use it as a drying aid or spray it on.
Yeah.
But I think the maximum, in durability is when you apply it with the foam pad the way you do with Opti-Seal.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so like gimmicky. I'm like, oh, so it's not that big deal to go and wipe off whatever until I did a couple Suburbans. And it's like, well, I don't have to go back and wipe it off. And I'm like, okay, this is And the same thing with the fact that Hyper and Hyper Polish and Hyper Compound are sprayable. And I understand that was originally done to use on assembly lines because you don't have to prime the pad.
Right.
You just spray and go.
Yeah.
And now I've come to appreciate how easy that is because I don't have to put dots on it or anything. I just like a quick pull of the trigger.
Yeah.
And it's not a full pull, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to use much. I was down in Austin. There was a Optimum training. They used to send people around and do like training for their people. And one of the ladies was saying, the 2-ounce bottle, I think they're in Abilene or something. They got a shop in Abilene, and they were saying that the 2-ounce bottles weren't enough with Opti-Coat to polish the car. It was like, so we were showing her how much. She goes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yes. She goes, I need to talk to my people.
Yep.
I said, I don't have to buy Hyper Polish because when I do, it takes maybe like a quarter, half-ounce max per vehicle. And then I just take that and dump it in my bottle of Hyper Polish. So I've always got,
Yeah.
It's kind of good.
One spray will do like 2 or 3 panels.
Yeah. It's crazy how efficient it is.
And you can even activate it. Yeah, just put your pad in the pad washer, get a little bit more ONR in there, and it'll reactivate it.
Yeah, it's in things like Hyper Seal. People are like, well, it's $50, but what you can do is like 50, 60 cars with that. I mean, it's $1 a car.
Yep. Yeah.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's nice with Optimum is how efficient they are and how little you need to use and how long they last. I'm not constantly buying like product all the time.
Right.
I mean, I know Optimum would like me to. If I was doing more cars, I would, but there's only so much you can do, as one person.
What'd you think of
ONR? Go ahead. Yeah.
ONR version 6. What'd you think of that?
Wow. Crazy. I did a Cybertruck last week, and it was dirty. And even on the stainless, everything was coming off quickly, and it was slick.
Yeah.
And even the owner noticed. He goes, "Wow, did you put anything on it?" And I go, "No, because what he's gonna do is wrap it."
Right.
So they have to replace the stainless above the doors. That piece, I guess it's not there's bonding issues or something, and after that's done, he's going to get a wrap. So there wasn't any point in that putting anything on it. So just that, and I mean, we were both impressed at the slickness.
Yeah.
And I can see when even on a clean car, you can see where you washed with it and where you didn't.
Yeah.
Almost to the extent, like if you polish a section and you look at the adjacent panel that's not polished, you can see the difference in gloss and depth. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy. I don't know what he does. I don't know how he comes up with it. And I think it's great that he's doing this. It's not to respond to the market, but just that he wants his products to be as good as possible.
Yeah.
It's better to set the standard than have to chase it.
Well, and the fact that, you know, the new ONR or hyper polish or whatever, it's like, this will last you forever, you know, like just, you know, you don't need that much product. I think it's a testament to the integrity of the company too, of saying like, hey, we just want to create the best products, compete with ourselves, whether that's Dr. G competing with himself to how can I, you know, refine this? How can I make it better? The installers competing with themselves. Like, how can I, you know, use less product to create even better results? I just think that's a very positive, like mentality to take with you throughout the week instead of, you know, I'm burning through products and I need some more stuff and, you know, I'm not satisfied with this. I'm going to jump to the next product and, you know, being a product junkie. I think it's a great place to be as a company saying, hey, look, like, you know, this is the best we can do with the detailer in mind. And I mean, I'm constantly placing orders for more, you know, products, different things to try just because it's exciting. And but there's some things I'm like, gosh, I'm going to be set on this for a while.
Yeah. As far as other stuff that comes out from other companies, number one, all my cars have Opti-Coat on them. So I'm not going to test them on mine. I don't want to test. It's like, I know this works. You know, there's no point unless it's going to do all the work, you know, for me. You know, I just, I don't see it. And the whole thing about like stuff being efficient and not using a lot, it did go and backfire once with Opti-Coat when it first came out, and you could buy like a 40cc tube. That's enough to do 3, maybe 4 vehicles if they're not big.
Right.
But people were bragging about doing 10 to 12 cars with that. And then 6 months later, they're complaining that it's failing. It's like, well, and also people worry about the high spots. Well, use more.
Right.
Use more.
That's what I learned.
If you're using less, then it's drying too quickly. It's cross-linking too fast before you can get back, you know, and level it. So if you use more, that eliminates that. And that goes with you know, with gloss coat and the ultra shine, you know, the consumer versions too. That's what I tell people. You're going to use it, use more than you think, and it gives you more time to go back and level it.
That's usually what I do. Or you can, you know, hit it with the pad again and kind of, you know, if it's starting to dry, hit it with the pad again because it's picking up and then putting down again.
Yeah. So, and you do have to adjust if it's humid and it's hot. The first time I tried to do Opti-Coat, this was early on, and it was like 95. The humidity was like 75%. It was just miserable. And I was like down to doing like 8x8, you know, sections because it crossed it so fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, if I tried to do a whole panel, it was like high spots like everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but it's just one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, the learning curve.
Yeah, although it's not bad, and I think that like the consumers will really like the Ultra Shine because it's really hard to end up with high spots.
Oh my, that stuff's amazing. I did like I coated like half the car with Ultra Shine and came back and I was like, do. It's like putting on Hyper Seal. It was so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, this is awesome. Yeah, it's as far as application, it's similar, you know, to that.
Yeah.
Except you have to at some point go and wipe it, I think.
Right. Have you put Ultra Shine on top of anything yet? On top of Pro or?
Yeah.
Pro?
I had Pro 3 on my Infinity, and I just hit it with the light pad. I just wanted to rough it up enough that it would grab,
Okay.
and the gloss is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 21-year-old paint, and even my wife, who normally doesn't notice stuff, has noticed it.
Okay.
She goes, it looks new. I can't believe your car looks new. It looks better than new.
How long has Pro 3 been on your Infiniti?
It was the sample that I got in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been on there since December of 2019.
Wow.
And I'd done my parents' car in 2009. I don't remember if it was Opti-Coat or Opti-Guard still then. And they got hit by a box truck, and they had to repaint a fender and a door, the rear fender and the door. And then my dad calls me like a couple years after that. He goes, "Hey, can you come put that stuff on the car? Because where they repainted it, it doesn't bead or it's not slick the way that the rest of the car is."
Wow.
And that was 2018. So I've been in there, been on it almost 9 years.
Wow.
And it was still there. And I'm on this forum. It's basically an off-topic forum, and I've been on there for like 25 years, and and they know that I'm a detailer, and a lot of them have switched to no rinse. There was someone's asking about coatings, and one of them posted his he had a black Audi and a white one, and he said he had Opti-Coat Pro applied 10 years ago on one of them. And then another brand, I think it was Seacort's Finest on the other one 4 years ago. And he said the Opti-Coat is outperforming it despite the difference in time. That at 10 years, it still is outperforming that.
Yeah.
So,
that's cool.
I mean, I think people, when I tell people, the warranty is 5 years, but if you wash it properly, it should last as long as the paint does, because it becomes a permanent part of the paint. This is not some voodoo. It cross links.
Right.
So
yeah, I know that there's a mentality out there, with older vehicles, newer vehicles, whatever it is, like they're concerned about putting long-term coatings on the vehicle because they say, well, the paint has to, there's 4 layers of paint, it has to heat and expand, contract, have room to move. What's been your experience with, some of these, like the 2009 to 2025? Do they still have that vehicle? At least a 2018. What's been your experience with, the expanding, heating, contracting, the concerns about it, messing with the clear coat in the long term? I
have seen no issues at all. None. I think the longest one now is a E39 M5. I applied it to in 2017. So it's 8 years old now. And it still looks like I just applied it. The paint's fine. The paint looks fantastic. Now it's not a car he drives every single day, but it's holding up well. Like I said, on my own cars, like I said, I had the Pro 3 on it for over 5 years before I did anything, and I wasn't having any issues on that. And we're talking a car that when I applied it, the paint was 15 years old, and now it's 21 years old. Yeah. So
yeah.
And on my Accord, which is what I use for work, and that's another thing that's great with no rinse is I just take the gallon jugs and fill them up with water. In the winter, I can use warm water, and that's what goes with me, so I can fit everything in a car, so I don't have to pay the insurance for a truck. I don't have to wash the truck. It's a Honda Accord's much easier to wash than a full size truck.
It sure is.
And it sits outside. It's been sitting outside since I bought it in 2011 because I don't have garage space for it, and it's my work car. And it's been coated continually since 2009. I bought it from my dad in 2011 because he decided to buy a truck, and I talked him into the V6, so I got first shot at the car. I had a Maxima that had been hit and totaled by a drunk, so I needed another vehicle, and so it's been coated since 2009. Now, of course, I've changed coatings, tested coatings. What I tested is gloss coat, the first version and second version on that car. Then I went to Opti-Coat. And then we had to buy the to be a Pro 3 installer, you had to buy it and install it on something of your own. And so I thought my wife was going to get another car, and so I kept saving it, and she decided, nah, she's fine with hers. Like, well, I'll just do my my Honda then. So that was fall of 2022. And I mean, it still looks, fantastic. This is a car that's been sitting outside, and Honda Clear Coat's not known for holding up well in the sun. Now it's geriatric gold, according to my kids. So, it's not a dark color, but it still looks great. In fact, when I did my the certification training in 2016, everyone what everyone wanted to see is the famous, Accord that I had.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of funny. It was almost, and like whenever I stop in Memphis on my way to Cincinnati to see my kids, I stop and visit at Optimum, and I want to come out and look at my car and see, because this is real world. This is not them doing it in a controlled environment, doing it in the shop, and how it looks when it's first applied. Now they're seeing how it looks after being on the car for a while.
Yeah.
So
how many miles are on that thing?
On my Accord, I got 331,000 miles.
Wow.
It's my work car. I don't, as long as it's not giving me any, reliability issues, there's no point in changing it.
Right.
And like my T35 is it's a sedan and it's a manual, and it's like a unicorn now. Even though it's still at the bottom of its depreciation curve, I don't want to get rid of it because it's a fun car.
Right.
So
yeah.
Do you have any?
The first car I ever had was a 71 Chevelle, and I kept that for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have any business advice? You're solo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any business advice? Because I'm sure I'm solo, Jacob's solo. I don't. Who knows what the future holds? But there's a lot of guys that are solo, I think, and it is sometimes overwhelming, daunting. You got to do everything, and if you read the E-Myth, you're breaking every rule in business that that is out there. Do you have any business advice for guys running shops or being mobile solo?
I think if you can do it solo, stay that way.
Okay.
The further away that you get from the work, the less chance it's being done the way you want it.
Sure.
If you're not there, what are they doing? I know a detailer out here. I won't say his name, but he does a fantastic job. I ended up getting some of his customers because he was off doing other stuff, and his people were coming out, and they weren't doing as good a job as he was. They said when he's there, it's fantastic. When his crew is, and some were out going and driving the Range Rover of one of the customers' Range Rovers, and they had the suspension at the lowest setting, which is for like get in and out. You're not supposed to go and drive that. So I just think, and I know people like Joe Fernandez, with the Superior Shine, he's done the same thing. He's had employees, and he always goes back. He just said, he goes, if you want it done right, then you have to do it.
Yeah.
But also say, it's that find the most efficient way, kind of experiment with how you're doing it, because time's money, and it's an asset that you can't make more of. So you need to go maximize how much you have. You said with interiors, I would vacuum the whole car, then I go back and detail the front and move it back and forth. And now I vacuum it, I detail it, move the seat up or back, and go to the next section. And I go around the car one time, and it probably knocks about half an hour off time to do an interior.
Do you do air blower, like a Tornador style, or air blast?
I do on some, well, especially on the driver's mat, because that's the one that's got all the sand in it. And it depends on the interior. Supposed to do this afternoon. I'm supposed to go do a Honda Pilot. He says that there's dog hair. So But it's been raining like all week here, so it's like, and it's
wow.
supposed to rain a chance today. So
yeah,
it's just been it's one of those weeks where it's raining. So I'm gonna go do that. But I bought that brush off Optimum, the for the pet hair, and it works real well. It's got the rubber bristles,
right?
And it's
Do you like to go in one direction?
You what?
Do you go in one direction, and do you use any kind of like I've used the cleaner and fabric, cleaner and protectant to spray first, as a lubricant? What do you use anything as a lubricant?
I'll use a towel that's dampened, with no rinse, because I find that seems to help. It's amazing what you can do, with no rinse. It just
right.
I'm always finding something else that I can use it for. It's great on headliners, because you don't want to get a headliner real wet.
Right.
And
I wanted to put
headliners, because it's upside down, all the dirt's right there at the surface.
I use it on the headliner too. I wanted to put no rinse straight in the rinse port of my dishwasher, because we ran out of Rinse-Aid. My wife's like, "No, you're not putting that stuff in there." I said, "It's probably safer than Rinse-Aid, and it's a gel, so it probably has non-necessary things in it to make it a gel." But I just wanted to try it and see. But she was like, "Don't do that. You're gonna break it."
What you can also do is laundry with it. We were visiting my kids were staying at Airbnb, and they had a washer dryer, because we're going to go to a hotel because the view is great for the last 2 days we were there. And let's do laundry, and didn't have any laundry soap. I go, well, I'll just use what I use is no rinse.
Yeah.
My wife's going, are you sure? I go, it's fine.
Yeah. I put it in the
fabric. Have you tried Renew?
What?
Have you used Renew?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's it actually works real well, because my towels just look new. And it's concentrated. It's only used, an ounce, per wash. So like a 32 ounce one will last me, probably wash towels, because I got a lot of towels, probably about once a week. It'll last me, like 6 months plus.
Right.
So I like that. Before that, what I was using is Puracy, which is a detailer that I knew from the Autopia days. He and his partner, they started Puracy. It's like plant-based cleaners.
Yeah, never heard of it.
And they sell online, and for a little while they were in Target, but that's what I was using, because it didn't have any artificial stuff, didn't have any weird stuff in it.
Yep.
And that worked, but the Renew's better, because it actually seems to renew the the towels, because I've got some that basically the towels start off on paint, then they go to wheels, then they go to jams, just as they and grime work,
motion.
I probably have 300-400 towels at least.
Yep. It's like a bad employee. You get demoted.
Yeah. Well, that's I want to throw them away. I mean, eventually I do.
Right.
Like if I'm working in a garage, the oldest ones are to wipe up, in any water that gets on the ground. Because and the advice I'll give anyone mobile is wear sunblock. Work in garages as much as you can, because dealing with skin cancer is not fun.
Right.
So, I just went through a whole bunch of treatment with it, and it's, and of course my dermatologist said, you're not going to die from this, but we have to treat it, and you have to limit your sun exposure. So I'm telling you guys now, especially because a lot of them are younger, you're not as strong, as the sun is.
Right. Yep.
So just be smart. It's more of a thing now, I think, to wear sunblock, hats, SPF clothing, than when I started, in the 90s. And growing up in Arizona in the 60s and 70s, when you're supposed to get a healthy tan. So I normally am very tan by now, by April. Now I'm, other than what the damage I've done, and I have got like a base tan that doesn't leave, but now, but just so you're healthy, you plan on doing this a long time, you should be very sun aware.
Yeah.
So I'll get off my soapbox about that now.
Yeah.
No, it's good. definitely need to.
Yeah. So
What's unlocked?
I like how you're mentioning about, you know, a lot of times when we start up a detailing business because we're passionate about getting close to perfection, or passionate about, you know, or excited about getting a good profit from a job or whatever. And having employees, I think it can be hard to find someone who is as excited as you that doesn't want to start their own thing. Have you found it important to have good relationships with, like, let's say you don't offer a service and you want it to be done to excellence, like anything from rim repair to I don't know if you do PPF or tint, but if there's something you don't do, is it important to you to have a good network of people that you can say, but I recommend so and so?
Oh,
do you
yeah,
get referral work back from them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on pretty good terms with Brian at Brian's Custom Detailing, Donnie with Washdock. I forget the guy who's Dallas Paint Protection. But yeah, I found it's a good idea, even for something like if there's something that a customer needs and you can't get to it in time. They have a certain time frame.
Yeah.
You can recommend somebody, because I don't want to recommend. I want to be able to recommend someone good, someone that I know will do a good job. For PPF, I send them to Brian and also to and Dallas Paint Protection, because I know they both do excellent work. And I think Brian is what he does is Opti-Coat too. So, but it's important to me that if something like that's done, like PPF, that it's a good job, because otherwise I got to deal with it too. And I got to deal with the customer who's hey, your recommendation was awful. So, and I think it's just good that, because then we can talk to each other. We can talk about like, what's going on in the market and things like that. And if we need to go and blackball a problem customer, it's okay to fire a customer.
Yeah.
They're not worth it. If they're a hassle. I actually had one, was upset because I was still in Kentucky going visiting my kids, and I was back a day later. And he goes, "Well, I thought you guys said." I said if I was back, and he got mad. And I said, "Look, you don't even pay me, when I do it. You have your secretary send a check. I mean, you don't go to a restaurant and say, hey, just go and leave, just give me a receipt, and I'll have my personal assistant send you a check." And he got mad and hung up on me. And 2 years after that, he called me. He goes, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I apologize. I was out of line. Will you please start doing my cars again?" And
is it because no one else would take him?
Because he said no one did as good a job as I did.
Right.
He said, "I miss how well you do everything." And this last Christmas, he gave me a gift card to Albernaise, which is a high-end restaurant floor, and it's $250.
Wow. Nice.
So, but sometimes I had one who would what he'd do is disappear.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, "Well, you can just pick up the check. I'll leave it under the floor mat at my house." It's like, that's like 8 miles each way.
Yeah.
I just stopped doing it. I said, "Man, this isn't working out." So
it's okay to have a low threshold. It's okay to have a threshold of your standards, whether that's how a customer's treating you or the quality of work. I think sometimes I've been afraid to
Yeah. So I just think it's important, because when 99% of your customers appreciate you and the work that you do and the advice you give them, that 1% that just wants to be a pain, you don't have to deal with. And that's one of the things, it's the same as you go in a restaurant and someone's abusive to the employees, you kick them out and trespass them. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just make sure you're not doing something dumb, if it's something the problem minor, you live with it. So, because you're not going to get along with everybody. It's going to be, a personality clash maybe. But if you can work with a person well enough to do the job and they're happy with that, then that's fine. So,
yeah. Well, Scott, we really appreciate how you've been a behind the scenes person for Opti-Coat all these years, and you've just been a huge help to so many detailers getting their hands on the best products and not having to go through all the bumps and scrapes, and for just helping represent Opti-Coat as a company that you can work with for. Sweets is she's been at my feet for a long time, but you're a testament to Opti being a good network of people to be involved with, and great products, and a great company to be supported by and support for decades. So we appreciate that, and thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been a blast having you.
I appreciate it. I would say, just in parting, that the meeting Dr. G in 2005 was probably the best thing that happened in my career. It got me in a product line that works well. In fact, and I think it helped him, because he's like, "What's it going to take to get you to use just Optimum products?" I said, "You need more products."
Yeah,
he's got way more products now. But I would never have expected, when I started, that I'd be charging what I can charge for for coatings. I mean, it's completely changed. Even if I have a week where it rains all week, if I do a coating or two, well, then I'm making more than I would have made back, before there were coatings.
Yeah.
So
I think that Dr. G has done a really good job of kind of showing detailers their worth, saying, "Hey, you're worth, having a successful and profitable business." Not just, I've had some customers will ask for a quote for something, and they're like, "Gosh, I used to work at a car wash 15 years ago, and prices are nothing like this," or they haven't gotten their car cleaned in so long. They're like, prices, and it's like, well, the economy is way different, one, but also the quality of products and the longevity that the products can go is so different from the past.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it's changed. I mean, back, I was using wax for just years, and I mean, it's interesting. I actually did a test with a customer. He originally just wanted me to show him how to do paint corrections. I go out to his house, show him how to do it. And he said, "Well, I don't know what I'm going to put on it." And I did 3 panels. I don't know which product to use to protect it. And I said, "Well, I've got 3 here that we can try." So I used Opti-Seal on one panel, and Clear Coat Carnauba Mousse on another one, and then Colonite 476S. I don't get the hype over 845. It's not that their paste wax is a better product. Well, fast forward 3 weeks, and he says, "I've decided I want you to do the correction, and then I'll maintain it." He goes, "I don't want to buy all the stuff and everything." So we go out and look. I go, "So what do you want me to put on it?" And he pointed at the panel that had Opti-Seal. He goes, "They all looked pretty close on the first day." He goes, "But now 3 weeks later, the difference is noticeable. It's big." That the Opti-Seal, and this was the first version of Opti-Seal. This is not the newest one. And over the waxes, it was, because once the oils evaporate out of a wax, the appearance is nearly as good.
Yeah.
So he decided he would go with Opti-Seal, as and that's another thing with testing is, you kind of want to do that, but it's just interesting how much it's changed, that it's gone away from wax, and clay was really new when when I was starting out. And in fact, all it was is it's Clay Magic, and then everyone started doing it, and then Clay Magic started suing everybody. Dave had a great clay, and then Clay Magic, he decided, well, before they come knocking, he'll just stop. He'll not sell it in the US. So, and in fact, it's funny, like, it's gone from clay to clay towels to clay pads. And I've gone back to clay. I just think it does a better job, especially if the contamination's heavy. I mean, it's not even, there's no contest.
Right.
So, I just think, to me, clay does a better job. And because I can clay with no rinse, I don't have to get an extra product. So, what I could do is clay and wash at the same time. I wash the pet section, then I wash it again and clay it to make sure, I want to make sure there's no dirt on it.
Yeah.
But it's a real time saver.
Yeah.
All this. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, everyone was using like cotton towels and diapers and cheesecloth, to remove products, and then microfiber started coming out, and I thought, well, might as well try them, see how they did. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they started improving them and making them denser and thicker. The new towels that Optimum has are really good. I wasn't quite sure about the hem, because I remember in the past hems would mar the paint, but I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah.
So, and they seem to hold their appearance and denseness really well. Oh, the Rag Company stuff's good, but I notice after about 10 washes, they start to not be as fluffy, I guess is the term.
Okay. I know the dye comes out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
I just want it to work.
Well, right. The dye coming out makes it look dingy and old. But you're right. The fluff does, especially the shoot, what is it? The 365 edgeless? I forget.
The 500 do too, but the good thing with the 500 is it never turns bad. So then I can use them for wheels and stuff like that. It's not like I have to go and throw them away. I can still there's still uses.
We had at the dealership that I worked at, we started getting microfiber early 2000s, and we were using like old terry towels and stuff. The microfibers, I had to like go get permission, and they were in the locked cabinet. But man, I mean, it came off without hardly. It was like a vacuum compared to like a straw sucking through it. You know what I mean? It was like so much better. But like we had to get official. We had to like call all departments and get permission and make sure they got put back. And then like they had the microfiber Nazis coming through, making sure you didn't. Where's that microfiber towel? Did you see it?
Yeah, well. If Grandy's, I don't know if you ever heard of Grandy's, it was a restaurant. And when they started, what they were is Christian based, the way that Chick-fil-A is. And when I worked for them, we couldn't call them rags. We had to call them towels, because rag is uncouth. The exact term they use. So they'd have to call themselves like the towel company.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just But they were smart enough to be open on Sunday, because they raked it. People after church would come in there, and we do 1,000 an hour, and this is 1982, 83.
Yeah,
and just crazy amounts of business. Yeah, the whole detailing thing. I actually detailed my my brother's car. I was a restaurant manager. I'd been with Jack in the Box for several years, and then I went to work at Denny's, thinking, well, I'll get into full service and I can make more. It turns out I actually made less because of the way the bonus is structured. I mean, I was making more weekly, but less overall. And then I find out that working at Denny's it's a resume stain. No one wants to hire you, because that's where all managers go to get like burned out. So I detailed my brother's car. He had a Mazda 626. It was a GT. Basically, it was a Ford Probe, with 4 doors. And I detailed it, and he calls me and says, I got like 5 people at the office who want you to do the same thing to their cars, and they'll pay you. So I think I did the first car for like $45, and started raising the prices pretty quickly after that. I'm like, no, I can't do it for this.
Working for free.
Well, I had to get out of the mindset that I should make the same amount an hour as I was making as a manager, because it's not the same,
right?
And I don't have to buy the food and stuff that the restaurant needs out of my own pocket,
right? That's true.
So and this was before the internet really, and I didn't really know how to price my work. I mean, I was doing details for like $75 for a while.
Yeah, see that right there is how detailing got started, and I'm sure it started long before the early 2000s. But
Yeah.
that's what and I don't know, because who you going to talk to. I've had conversations with people because I grew up in the dealerships. I detailed in the dealership and private before I started my shop. And this is exactly how I think detailing started. Whatever year this was, you had a bunch of cars around. It was probably a dealership, could have been a collector. Of course, back then they were modern cars, so I guess they weren't collecting them. That would be weird. But somebody was like, they're fixing cars, they're repainting cars, they're selling cars, they're trading cars in, and someone's like, "Hey, this car's dirty," and like, well, what are we supposed to do? We don't have anybody like, and someone's like, "Well, we need someone to clean." Hey, you want to clean? Yeah, I'll clean it. So that somebody just grabbed some tools and started detailing, and detailing I think was contained within wherever cars were. And I think where detailing businesses really, I don't know about the metro areas. It's probably different than, there's more people that detail, I think, outside the metro areas than in. But I think metro area kind of sets more of a higher standard. But anyway, and then I think in the 90s, early, mid, late 90s, whatever it was, I think is when detailing started leaving dealerships and then kind of
Doing
went
all
out
that.
as an it kind of went out as an island. No longer now are we surrounded by a bunch of cars. Now we're just a shop where cars are trying to come to us. Where mobile is now, you can still go to the cars. But I really kind of think that's where detailing came, and it was that mentality. I was 16 when I started detailing. I went to the local little dealership and I was like, "Hey, I want to clean cars." I don't know what I charged. $70 maybe to do the whole car, and I had no clue what I
Yeah.
was doing. You know what I mean? That's what detailing was. What do you mean taxes? $70 was a lot of money to a 16-year-old in 1997.
Yeah.
So that just. But you have to get off that mentality. You have to get off that. Hey, this is pretty good. You have to think of all those expenses that you didn't think about before: electric bill and phone and internet and retirement and a new upgraded tool. So you got to get out of that.
Insurance, both business
insurance.
and health insurance is way more expensive than business
Oh
insurance.
my, yeah.
It's not even remote. And the good thing is that my wife, with her job, she has great insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, I suggested in the past to Dave that see if he can get a group insurance rate for installers. We're not expecting him to pay it, just see if he can find a group rate for the installers.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be another way to maybe attract more installers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was funny. Like Brian with Brian's Custom Detailing actually called me and asked me what I thought about him becoming an Opti-Coat installer. He goes, would that be stepping on your toes? I go, no, because it's brand awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Said,
right.
And you have a shop and I'm mobile. And the people, and I said, and you know how people are in North Dallas and Southwest Fort Worth and whatever. They don't want to drive to the other part of town, which is why he's in Grand Prairie, which is in the middle of the Metroplex too. But they don't want to drive to the part of town. They'd rather have you do it.
Right.
So to me, being mobile is a competitive advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't do PPF and tint because you just can't do that in a mobile environment because most people's garages, frankly, aren't that clean.
Yeah.
Right.
If you had a box truck, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I actually box truck around with all your rolls.
Well, I actually have one customer who not only does he sweep out his garage, he hoses it out and squeegees it out first.
Wow.
And then he washes his cars.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I know how to do that. I just want you to do your polishing and voodoo magic stuff that you do.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that sometimes you get that, and other people. And one guy called it as a Tesla, and most of the Teslas I do are coatings. I don't really detail a lot, but this guy called me like August one year, and he's like, "Yeah, I need to get it detailed." And then it got wet, and then he started traveling, so it was like December before I was able to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "I'm sorry, it's dirty, but I knew you were going to go and detail it." It's like, wait, you really didn't wash your car for 5 months? I mean, if the maid is coming, do you just not go and vacuum or wipe anything down, for 3 weeks? Just so you to get your money's worth. It was so odd, but for like a before and after with no rinse, it was great because I got a fender that I washed, and then the door, and you could see how clean it was and how grimy and filthy the rest of the car was. It actually made for some good shots. So you kind of got to look at the bright side of things too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Disaster details. Like, well, yeah. What can I get out of this for footage?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's a visual. Now, I don't take video and stuff like some of these people do because, frankly, I don't have time.
Right.
You know, I mean, I want to have a life like after I'm done. I don't want to work until. I mean, so I used to see some of these write-ups on Autopia with paint correction. Okay, I get it. The car needed paint correction. I don't have to see every single panel half and half. You know, and now they're not just doing a line down. Now they're doing an X or a box or something, and it's like, you know, how.
Well, my thought is
by the time.
My perspective on removing scratches. You're not removing scratches. You're bringing the level of clear coat down. So, like, who can remove the most clear coat is what I hear, and I don't say this to criticize and to belittle anyone. It is a skill, and if you can get people to pay big bucks for it, but there's always a trade-off. You're basically saying I'm the best at removing lots and lots of clear coat, which is not an improvement. Your customer may go, wow, I don't see those scratches anymore. Chances are he only saw a few percentage points of those scratches to begin with. I just took a Hyundai Tucson out. The thing is, it's hacked to pieces. I don't know if it went through I detailed it. It needs to be polished. They're selling it. It is what it is. I could lightly polish that. I would never convince these people it's a Hyundai. If it was a $500,000 Ferrari or some valuable vehicle, it's a different conversation. But like removing clear coat is not an improvement. It may be something you can take pride in and say, I got the skill, and you do. It's a great skill. It takes a lot of patience, which I don't have 8 hours of polishing patience that I could, endure, that sort of thing. And if somebody wants to make if they want to pay $4,000 for it, sure, I'll put in eight hours. But I could never watch that sort of video either. Somebody wants to make a 40-hour paint correction video, so I'm gonna skip that one. I can't watch that. But
the whole thing with the clear coats is a good way to sell Opti-Coat, because like I explained to people, it's more upfront. I said, but you're polishing the car once.
Right.
When it's new and it's got its maximum amount of clear coat thickness, and you're not removing much, and then you're putting the coating on top of it. If you have me come out every 6 months, depending on how you're washing, I might have to polish it every single time. In the 5 years, it's been polished like 10 times now.
Right.
So the way you make your paint last is you preserve the thickness of the clear coat.
Yeah.
And
clear coat only has
the only way to remove a scratch is to level all the paint around the scratch down to the bottom of the scratch.
Right.
Exactly. So if it catches your fingernail, it's not coming out, because I said then I got to level it into the primer all around it, and you don't want that.
Right. Yeah. Clear coat only has a 5-year half-life.
A brand new vehicle coming off the lot, did a Pro 3 this past week, and it's just like, it's a huge black truck, but man, like, I think the detailing department at the dealership probably washed it once, with water and a brush, and these scratches down the side, it's just so disappointing. And I don't know how recently it was painted. I think the trucks have been together for a while, but it's pretty soft GM paint, and just from the get-go needing to polish more than, like a couple weeks ago I did a Buick Envista real light pass, couple of little hairline scratches, like they accidentally brushed on it, just to before getting the coating on. But some of these new vehicles, have you found I know that when you're removing clear coat, you're removing like the UV protectors really rise to the top of the surface.
Most of it is in like the top third.
So when you're removing that, even if you do it aggressively, Opti-Coat Pro Plus, Pro 3, I mean, is it kind of neither here nor there as far as, putting a long-term coating on it that's going to have UV protection in the coating itself? Is it really that big of a deal anyways if you're removing a ton of paint?
Well, I think if you're removing a ton of paint, you want to have some UV protection in the coating because you're removing some of the UV protection. I did a professional class with McGuire's back in 2004. I was invited out. They paid for everything too, from a contributions to detailing on the internet. And I went through a class with Mike Phillips and Pennington, and they explained this whole thing. You know, you got about 1.5 mils of clear. Most of the UV protection is in the top third because that doesn't give you much to play with. So don't chase perfection if it means you're going to thin the clear and remove the UV protection, because at the time waxes and stuff do not have UV protection, and what's going to happen is the clear coat eventually the color coat is going to start to oxidize under the clear. I don't know if you remember a lot of the GM cars, the 90s, like the sides would be shiny, but the hoods would look like blotchy. And that's what happened. They didn't have enough UV protection to clear, and the color coat was oxidizing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very important to really pay attention to that. And like I said, it's a good way to sell the Opti-Coat because now you're doing it once. You maintain the maximum clear coat thickness, and you've got Opti-Coat on it.
Right.
You know, your paint's going to last a lot longer.
But it's never a good trade-off to say, wow, this thing has a lot of scratches. And if you want to use a paint gauge to figure it out, whatever. I've removed, or I potentially need to remove 8 microns of clear coat. I'm putting 8 microns of Pro 3 on. It's not a trade. It's not a appropriate trade-off, because you're removing a material that the coating can't make up for. Yeah. Although yes, it can protect the clear coat, but the clear coat is an irreplaceable, necessary resource, and if you remove any of it, you've actually done detriment to the paint, and the coating is going to perform accordingly. You've made the paint softer, you've made it thinner, and the coating, the clear coat can fail under the coating. Yeah. Chances are, if it's, if you only remove 8 microns, that's a lot, but
well, I'd say most, like if the paint's in great shape, just a pass or two with hyper polish, it's going to clean it up. And it's funny. I actually had a customer who had a white a Tahoe. Now he had a metallic black F-150 that I coated, and his wife's got a gray. It's a Bentley that I coated. Now he goes with this. I'm just getting what I'm getting is a protection, right? It's not going to really change the appearance. I go, once I polish with hyper polish, it's going to blow. It'll blow you away.
Yep.
And it did. Yeah. And then after I coated it, he goes, I can't believe you made white paint look that good. And I said, well, I don't know what kind of magic is in hyper polish. I know people who don't use any other product from Optimum except for hyper polish, because it's such a good polish.
Yeah.
And it adds so much gloss and depth. But that's why I tell people, it's like, the better the paint looks before the coating goes on, the better it's going to look after. Think of it like wood. And, I'd say like 95% of my coating customers are men. So they all took, what they all took is wood shop, I would hope. And you can take the wood, stand it with 60 grit and varnish it, and it'll be shiny. But if you do 200, 400, 600, 1,000 and varnish it, then the gloss, it blows you away. So the more refined the finish is before it goes on, the better it's going to look.
Yeah.
So, because they'll ask, it's a brand new car, it doesn't need polishing. I go, you know how many people have touched your car since it left the assembly line who don't care about the paint?
Yep.
I said, just the fact that when you're polishing it, you're refining it, you're making it look better, you're adding gloss and depth. And why would you not want to go and add that if you're going to coat it and have it and have it look that way, for several years?
Right. Pro is going to kind of enhance the gloss, but even Paint Guard, after one step with the polish, it's going to lock in the shine that your paint looks like. So I try and tell people, like, Paint Guard is going to protect it. It's not going to enhance the gloss, but as good as your vehicle looks, it's going to keep it looking like that. And then Pro Plus, Pro 3 is going to make it even look better.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it makes a difference. And like I said, it's all in the prep, and that's like people like, it'll take me like sometimes it's 4 or 5 hours before I'm ready to coat the vehicle. And they go, so how much long is it going to take? I said, I don't know, hour. That's it.
Yeah.
You go, well, it's getting it to this point is what takes time.
Right.
That actually applying the coating, especially because I've done so many, doesn't take that long. It's just it's getting it so it looks as good as it does now, and then when I put the coating on, it'll be even better.
I love hearing from customers like this past week with that Pro 3 on the 2500 Silverado. He's like, I had no idea that it could look like this, and that's probably one of the best moments in this business is showing someone taking their expectation and showing them, oh my gosh, like using these products, this process is bringing you to a new level of awareness of what your vehicle could look like.
Yeah, well, it always bugs me. People go, well, what I want is that showroom shine. I go, why don't you take that showroom shine out in the sun and look at it? It doesn't look as good as you think it does.
Right.
I actually did a couple of Saabs for a guy. He was buying Saabs when they had gone out of business, and did whatever the SUV was, the 9.4 or something, and it was you could see where, like, in the showroom, people had laid their books and stuff on it, leaned on it, because they had all these areas. And so that's what happens in the showroom. I mean, they're setting books on the hood and things like that. So, they're not taking very good care of your car there. And heaven help you if the dealer goes and washes it. I literally had a customer tell the dealer, "Do not even take the plastic off."
Right.
I wish my most recent customer would have done the same.
And he goes, when we get there, we'll pull the plastic off, make sure there's no defects. Then I'm taking home because I have someone who's going to go and polish and coat it. They sent him a picture. The plastic was off and they'd washed it. I had to do a full 2-step correction on the car with 17 miles on it.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's very, particular. So, I mean, it was just crazy that they just totally ignored them. And this is an Audi RS7. This is not an inexpensive car. It's not like he's buying like a Chevy Cruze and doesn't have the expectations that an Audi buyer would have. Although if I was buying a Chevy Cruze new, I wouldn't care. I'd want it perfect too. But a lot of people, their expectations go along with the type of vehicle it is. And then 2 weeks later, I did an e-tron GT, same dealership.
Nice.
It seems like because there are random scratches everywhere, and I think what they're doing after they pull the plastic, they're taking like a shop rag and thinner and knocking off all the adhesive. So because there's random scratches everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's how they managed to do it. So, and I know it's not Optimum, but like Wash Solutions in Dallas is a McGuire's professional distributor, and they've been trying for years to get the dealerships to stop using a wool pad and a rotary to wax cars. And I actually did a car at a body shop. It's a chain shop, so kind of told you what to expect. But he had it coated in Oklahoma, but he'd moved down here and it got hit. And why he took it to a chain body shop, a Camaro, the ZR1, ZL1, whichever one their one is. And like beyond what they painted, I had to polish another half of the car because there was overspray and swirls on it. And meanwhile, I'm watching them buff another car, and they're using a wool pad and a rotary. And there's a glob of cake compound in the middle. It looked like the nose cone of a propeller in the middle of the pad. Nice. So he's not even putting the pad flat. He's using the edges. Because they got all this compound built up in it. And I'm like, what?
Now, granted, put a wool pad, like a hybrid short wool foam pad.
Yeah. Those are awesome.
And hyper compound in the hands of an Opti-Coat installer. That's a different experience altogether.
I had to do that on and what they both were is Cayennes, coincidentally. One was like 4 years old and it came out of Utah, and obviously had been through a lot of car washes. The other one was a dealer, like a demo or something, had 5,000 miles on it. The paint looked like it had 500,000 on it. And I knew it was gonna get is PPF on the whole car. And I knew who was gonna do it. And I sent him pictures. I go, will the PPF hide this? He goes, oh hell no. It needs to be polished. He goes, if you can get it to about 80%, then it's fine.
Really?
And that took 6 hours to get it to 80% corrected.
Well, and then what'd you finish with?
With hyper polish, and at the time I was using the orange pads because the blue pads went out. It looked fantastic. I mean, you could still see some light swirling and stuff, but once the guy did the full PPF and he spent like $9,000 on it, only to have his wife back it into something and have to redo the tailgate, and the body shop that's been in business since the late 50s left the paint all swirled up, so I kind of had to do the whole into the tailgate. So it was like,
yeah.
I'm so glad it's got PPF because I don't want to deal with that thing again.
Well, I think as a detailer too, sometimes it's if you struggle with the mentality of being able to charge what you're worth, it's funny sometimes to see what happens when they go to the next shop. Like I did a decontamination wash on a truck, and I referred him over to a friend of mine to do some undercoating, and my friend did sorry, he didn't do undercoating. He wanted his front and back bumpers on his what was it, a 2012 Ram? It might have been older than that. And then his side rails too, he wanted them all repainted, looking nice and black. And when he got it done, it looked amazing. And I asked him, and it's a friend of mine, so I was like, how much did he end up charging you? He's like, oh well, he did all of that, and threw on a couple of new like headlamps, because it's a big Ram truck with the bumpers on the front and back were all stainless, sort of a deal. It's like, oh, it was about $1,400. It's like it's crazy what people are actually spending to get the vehicle to look the way that it does. And sometimes we can be like, oh gosh, like a 1-step, a 2-step, I don't know how much. I think sometimes if a customer's giving you a hard time, just we have to look at the big picture of what they're actually spending on these vehicles.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a customer when I first started out. He had a Rolls Royce and a Mercedes SL 560 with the body kit on it, and he owned a bunch of clubs. And I was going to give him a discount because it was 2 vehicles, and he told me never be afraid to ask for what your work is worth. He goes, yeah, if you're going to do good work, you should charge for it. Right? You can afford it, but it was just interesting. It was funny. Like I have a brother who, because he listens to the guy at the body shop, and he goes, "Oh yeah, your paint looks great." I go, "Your paint's swirled up." He goes, "Well, he says it looks good." I go, "Okay, well, I don't ask the chef how to eat eat my food. He's a painter. He doesn't maintain it." And so when Dr. G sent me a new version of gloss coat to try, I called my brother. I said, "Hey, why don't you bring it over here? I'll correct your paint. We'll put it on. And I'll show you how to use the rinseless wash. You don't have to start taking a car wash anymore." After I polished it, he just could not believe how much of a difference there was. It's like it's a burgundy red, and he goes, "It just looks so deep now." And I said, "You spend all this money doing." He did a 6.4 SRT swap into his Ram, and the 8-speed automatic headers, long tube. Header, intake, exhaust, 150 shot nitrogen. I mean, you got all this money spent on this truck. You might as well make it look as good as you can too. Yeah. So, and after we did it, and after he, we put the gloss coat on it, he was just amazed. And I showed him how to use the no rinse wash, and I actually gave him some. And so now he's using that. He got rid of his membership to the car wash, and he said it's amazing that he drove it all the way to Arizona and it still looked clean. Yeah. And he goes, wow. And he goes, it'll rain on it and it's clean.
So for new customers now, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. I'm just curious now, with Opti-Coat, the maintenance line, the no rinse that has the SiO2 in it, versus ONR version 6. Obviously the difference is the SiO2, but when you're you got a new customer, you can do a coating, you know, how's this maintenance line treating you and your customers?
It's pretty good because I talked to him about it. And I go, you know, the only thing you're obligated to do is wash the car regularly. You can't wash it every 6 months. You need to wash it regularly. You know, a coating is not, it's not, you know, like a force field in that, you know, and you can't just rinse it off. You can't leave water spots on it. You know, you do have to knock them off, but you'll find that it's much easier to wash. And I suggest, you know, products for the maintenance line, like the No Rinse. And if they don't want to spend that much, I said, well, the version 6 is good too. Or you can get, you know, the maintenance line, the Opti-Coat version of the No Rinse for the paint, and then use the regular stuff on the wheels if you want to do that. Yeah, that's a good compromise. And like I said, I come back and people have the products in their garages.
That's awesome.
And I've actually had people tell me they never would have washed their own cars if I hadn't shown them how to do the No Rinse wash.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't washed the car, you go, oh, it's a lot. It's a big thing to do. And then you see a rinseless wash, you know, kind of clean and dry as you go if you want, you know, if you're doing it outside and it's sunny or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm already done. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned real quick if I'm working outside. I've stopped doing that, but like I had to do like about a quarter of the hood at a time, you know, when it's in the middle of summer here. Because or I normally would do the interior first, but if it's going to be hot, then I'll wash would wash the exterior first. Yeah. You know, and then touch up if I messed anything up while I was doing the interior. But that was just to get it clean, you know, before it's, you know, it's direct sun. But that's what's nice. Like I tell people, you know, now that I have to pretty much work in garages and avoid the sun, that, you know, it's not going to make a big mess. And I can show you, I said, and you got the advantages. You don't have to drag out the hose. You don't have to try to get it dry before it spots. You can do it in the garage, you know, in the summertime. You're not standing in the full sun. In the wintertime, you can use warm water and close the garage door, you know, and your life will be easier. I promise you. So, and it's just awesome. Good to see that they buy it and they use it. It's not like the bottle's there and unopened. Right. So, yeah. Exception to one. Because he just has me. He's like my last customer whose cars I wash. I got rid of that like 8-10 years ago. And just as people would leave, I just wouldn't get anyone else replace them because it was taking up too much time. And he pays me like $100, you know, each car, and he has 2 cars. So I mean, I'll wash the cars for a couple $100. That's fine. So he doesn't use what he bought. Well, he used a little bit, and then he stopped. The bottles had the same level since because you know, because I just come out and do it. So
awesome. Well, again, Scott, thanks so much for coming on. Tug, you have any closing remarks?
So what's one important, Scott, business advice? I know he asked you that before, but one like final business thought.
I would say to find a process and a product that works well for you, that makes your job go efficiently and quickly, and charge what you're worth. Yeah. You get out of the mindset of whatever you used to do and whatever you're making in that, because it's not the same when you're self-employed and you're responsible for all the costs.
Yeah. Excellent.
Great. Well, Scott, thanks again. We'd love to
Thank you, Scott.
Appreciate it.
Hear some new things that are happening down the road. Love to have you back on, and maybe we'll try and squeeze out of you if you're testing a new product and how that's
I
going.
never know. I just get I'll just get a call or a text. Hey, I'm doing this.
Hey, I'm sending you something. Check it out. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and of course, like I said, I'll be at that, you know, at the mothership in Memphis in less than 2 weeks. So be up there, and I can pick Dr. G's brain and get lunch at Tom's. I don't know if you guys have been there, but Tom's
No.
it's a barbecue joint. It's a dive joint. It's
Okay.
fantastic. If
Okay.
you never had
Perfect. Good to know.
style, I mean, I'm in Texas, so I get Texas all the time, but I like Memphis too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been on diners, drive-ins, and dives too. So
Okay,
they're
cool.
there.
That's
I know
cool.
I know they catered it when we did like my the certification class that I did, because that was at their old place and it was like a quarter of a mile away. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for helping continue to move the company forward, and thanks for coming on and for this conversation. And until next time.
All right, I appreciate it. Y'all have a great
Thanks,
day.
Scott. See ya.
All right.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right.